Yeah, I guess.
Okay, I can just click here and it'll move. Can we shut that door real quick? You know the button, right? The one at the top? Oh, hold on. All right, guys, we're going to be starting now. Let me just turn off some lights real quick. All right. Thank you all for coming to the first workshop of the semester. We're Upsilon Pi Epsilon, and we want to thank you guys for coming out. Oh, it's this one, right? So today is our first workshop, the web development workshop. I think one of the biggest workshops we usually have. So let me just carry on here. The web dev workshop is part of our software and hardware development program. It's one of the many programs we run here as part of UPE to help get you guys the skills you need to look really good in front of the recruiters and in order to get better at your careers. We're hosted here in PG6 in beautiful FIU via the Information Technology department. I also want to thank you guys for, if you guys came out during Week of Welcome, and those for you who got shirts, thank you. Week of Welcome's like one of the best things the campus has done, does to help get the students up to speed in terms of what the campus has to offer and to help you network with the different things that are available to you through the community. I also want to thank one of our other partners, Women in Computer Science, who the president just left, I believe. Okay, stepped out. But we want to thank them so much for coming out here and helping us set up and giving us their support. ASI, the Academic Success Initiative. Thank you guys. I don't know if there's a rep from them here. Not today. But, oh, there we go. There's one rep. Hi. All right, so the Academic Success Initiative, if you guys don't know, they provide free tutoring. If you guys are having troubles in classes, or if you're like me and you're taking 3 too many hard classes because you don't care too much about your schedule, sign up for ASI tutoring. They're going to help you out as much as they can. And basically everybody I've met that has gone through ASI have brought their grades up from like C's or D's up to A's and B's. So today we're going to be teaching you guys HTML, JavaScript, and CSS as part of the workshop. But first, some activities that we're going to be having coming up in the next few weeks. Web development workshop, of course, today. Database management workshop is going to be next week. Machine learning hosted with Facebook is going to be the Friday of September 29th, the same day as Shell Hacks, which I'll speak to you guys in a minute. Mobile app development taught by Steve Lewis, as well as the Python workshop taught by Trevor, game dev taught by Roque, and the hardware workshop with the help of Microsoft and Theta Tau. So in terms of Microsoft's going to be here next week to help get you guys some training in terms of how to become really relevant and more, I want to say, what's a nice word for it? Alluring to recruiters? One of those words. They're going to be having a Meet the Company and How to Get a Job in Tech workshop next week on Tuesday. The IC resume, so you guys want free ICs because this is just campus of free stuff. And also give your resume over to Microsoft and get a critique. Wednesday would be that. There's going to be a there's going to be the competition that Microsoft is going to be hosting on Wednesday. Would highly recommend, if it's your first coding competition, it doesn't matter. Show up, give it your best. It's still, even if you don't manage to win or anything, it still looks good in front of the recruiters, and it also gives you that little bit of extra experience and something to put on your resume or your cover letters. And I want to thank our sponsors who are going to be helping us. I want to thank our partners who are going to be working with us next week on this. Shep which is the Society of Hispanic, sorry, I forget sometimes, Professional Engineers, Society of Women Engineers, and Startup FIU, Women in Computer Science, and us. So who here knows what a hackathon is? All right, Rick, can you explain what a hackathon is?
Essentially, it's a weekend-long competition where essentially you pair up with teammates, whether people that you don't know or you do know, with your friends that you take along with you, and you decide to venture on a project, whether it be something super simple or complex. It could be whatever you want, but there might be a theme.
Yep, diversity. This campus is extremely diverse. We're an international campus for a reason. So we decided to make our hackathon to celebrate that diversity. If it's your first hackathon, don't worry about it. I would recommend going because it's right here. You don't have to go anywhere. If you have class on Friday, you're already on campus for the hackathon. So just make sure to show up, say hi, take advantage of all the workshops that are available, all the times you're gonna be there with the recruiters, the face-to-face you can have with them, networking with your fellow students, and creating something that you truly believe in and showing it off towards the end of the hackathon. Oh, would you look at that? There's some details for you guys. So it's our 36-hour hackathon, September 29th to October 1st. In a couple, it's pretty much at the end of this month. And our mission is to provide students with the opportunity to learn new technologies, create innovative projects, and share their work with the community. And like I said, our theme is diversity. So if you guys don't know, these are some of our sponsors that we're going to be working with. So if you guys see companies here you're interested in meeting, I would extremely recommend showing up for the hackathon. It's going to be extremely beneficial to you guys in terms of like making your resume look good, but most of all, it lets you like get those face-to-face with the companies. Plus, campus of free stuff, a lot of free stuff being given out, shirts, fidget spinners, all the good stuff. Just, it's going to be good, guys. Our partners working with us as well. So make sure to register now. Registration is open. Seats are limited, so try to get on that as soon as you can. Don't do it during the workshop. Make sure you pay attention, but after, would highly recommend. These are some of our other programs that we have. The Software and Hardware Development Program, which is hosting this workshop, or Professional Development Program, which is helping Microsoft next week, or Mentorship Program, which will be starting in a couple of weeks. Google Ignite CS, where we go teach children how to program. Spark Dev, in case you have some projects that you want to work on, or a new technology that you're interested in, you could work with them to make that project a reality. And the Hackers Program, which is our hackathon. If you're interested in joining any of these programs, sign up at that link, go.fiu.edu/UPE, and pick what programs you're interested in knowing more about, and we'll send you guys some information about that. Don't worry, guys. This PowerPoint is going to be available to you guys at the end of the workshop. So if you're taking photos or anything, don't worry about it. It's going to be available to you. Don't waste the space on your phones. Check out our website, upefiu.io, for applications. Make sure you apply to UPE's local chapter, and to look forward to those induction invitations being sent out later in the semester. Make sure you sign up on discord.gg/UPEFIU. That's our Discord channel. Thankfully, we're sponsored by Discord, so we can support having all of you guys on it. Make sure you sign up, because if you have any questions or any technologies you're interested in knowing about, we have a lot of people on our Discord who are very knowledgeable in them. So if you're stuck or you just want to know something, ask on there, and more than likely you will get the help you need. Also, it's one of the places where we post all of our events. These are some of our social media. Facebook would highly recommend. Those of you who are SVP'd on Facebook, thank you. We have all our events on Facebook right now, or Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, or LinkedIn, Discord, and of course our GitHub. So I would like to introduce to you guys Professor Gomez, who will be teaching you guys the web development workshop today. Come on over.
All right, let's do this. How's everyone doing today? Good? All right. All right. Well, thanks, Jose, for the introduction, for the slides, for sharing all the information with you guys. Hopefully, this should be a fun little workshop. Let's see, where are we here on the computer?
Wait, can I make a quick announcement?
Sure, go for it.
If you guys have any questions or get stuck, just raise your hands. We have mentors in the room who are going to come out to help you so that you guys can keep up with the workshop, okay?
Perfect. So that's basically part of the guidelines. I want to make sure that everybody raises their hand if you guys have any questions. You know, just we'll try to go at a decent speed. You know, we'll do this spaced out. We'll try to have a break halfway or around 2:30 to 2:30. Yes, 2:30 to 2:50. I don't believe there is a session 2, so sorry, the slides might be a little outdated, but that's fine. Other than that, let's go ahead and get started. What are we going to be doing today? We'll just have a quick little slide that talks about myself. We're going to answer a few questions. What is a website? What is HTML? What is CSS? And eventually, what is JavaScript? There will be a tiny bit of JavaScript in this demo. The software that we'll be using to complete this is going to be open source software. It's called Brackets. And we're going to try to use a plugin called Emmet. Now, you don't have to use any of this to follow along. You can actually write most of the code directly on a text editor. And even if you don't have a text editor and you're using a Unix machine, you can just write it direct. You can write the text directly into the server using software such as VI. It's a visual editor that comes pre-built in most Unix systems. Now, we'll start writing our HTML along with any CSS files. So that's basically what we have. So a little bit about me. My name is Germán Gomez once again. Yes, that is me. I don't like my professional picture on FIU. That's why I'd rather use this one instead. I am a network security application developer here for FIU. What does that mean? It means that I am the guy responsible for the new login page for the university. By show of hands, how many of you have seen this page and don't opt out to use two-factor? Don't be shy. I'm not going to go after you. It's OK. I'm just the guy that was asked to build this. I'm not the guy that enforces it. So that will be my boss. But that's one of the projects that I work on here at the university to make sure we protect your information, we protect faculty and staff, and ultimately, we prevent anyone from breaking in and taking any sensitive data. I'm also a lecturer for the Unix class and web construction. So this workshop comes in very, very handy. And if I had to define myself in just kind of one line, I'm a software developer / technology enthusiast. So some fun facts about myself. Siri thinks that FIU is home. I know it's really sad, but it actually does think that sometimes. I've been coming to FIU since 2003. I've been attending FIU since I was a sophomore in high school, doing dual enrollment programs and everything else. I participated in the Solar Decathlon project. That's the solar house that's on 112, right on that entrance. If you guys see that little tiny house over there, I helped build that. That was a pretty cool project. That's an interdisciplinary project that universities participate every 2 years to build a solar house. And I was very fortunate to be part of that team in 2011 here at FIU. Another program that I participated is National Student Exchange. And the only reason I'm telling you this is because, you know, it's about getting involved in the university. When I was here and I was an undergrad, I didn't have the luxury of having these workshops like you do right now. None of this was available when I was here. Instead, people just like to commute, so they will come in, take class, and just leave. I didn't really have the opportunity to just share with my fellow peers and, you know, answer questions and work on assignments together. But what I did is I participated in this National Student Exchange, which allowed me to go to California State University of San Bernardino. That's east of LA. And I was paying FIU tuition. So it's basically for those who can't go abroad, that's a local program. You pay FIU tuition, you still get to go outside. All your credits are good. You basically take classes somewhere else. They still give you credit here in school. It was an awesome program. I was there for a whole year. Also, I was able to do research at UC Berkeley during my senior year, and I actually went to Mozilla to visit their headquarters in Cupertino area. Not know exactly where they're located anymore, but yes, in that area. And I visited them. So that was actually pretty cool. Again, get involved. There's also a lot of other programs that are out there, not just for computer science, but all over the university that you guys can participate. And then all of these things add on to your resume. I don't know how much running really adds to my resume, but I just put it in there. But that's pretty cool. All right, so some of the work that I've done, again, the Solar Decathlon project, the login website, and just kind of a personal project is called Wall-Mounted PC. We can definitely look over them a bit later. So first off, can anyone define what is a web page? What is your definition of what a web page is? Okay, let's go with this side of the room first. What would be your definition?
The way I could think of it is like a set of instructions that arrive to your browser and tell you how to view something that you can look at.
Set of instructions. All right. What else on this side of the room? Come on, somebody. What do you guys define to be a web page to be defined as? Kind of the result of what you see on your browser. All right. Pretty cool. So this snippet of, this particular answer, I found it on Firefox documentation, and they define a web page to just be a document that can be displayed in a web browser. So very similar to what you guys answer. The only thing is that this definition is still very vague. The definition just says a document, meaning that anything can just be a plain text document. So imagine you're writing some notes on your favorite text editor. You finish those notes, save the file .txt, upload it into a web server. Maybe there's a website that renders a file. Will that be considered a web page? I guess by definition, it is. So just to kind of make sure you guys have a clear understanding of what a web page could be. It's not just the entire markup. It can just be as simple as any document that can be displayed in a browser. And a collection of those will be web pages. What about a website? A collection of web pages? All right, where the web page is located. Anything else? All right, so this one goes more along the collection, right? This is not just one, but more than one. And then what is a web server? And I think you just answered this question. Basically, the host that actually holds all this information and is visible either on the internet or locally on your local system. All right, so so a little more detail about what a web page is in terms of HTML. HTML is a markup language, not a programming language. So if anybody ever asks you that in an interview, you want to make sure that you emphasize the fact that it's not a programming language. It's just markup. Basically, what this is just instructions on how to tell the browser what to do. So you tell the browser, hey, I want this piece of text to be a header. I want this text to look like a bullet point list. This to be a paragraph. Embed some videos, some pictures. You're just telling the browser some directions. That is the markup. There's some things that the different types of resources that you can contain: styles, scripts, and media. Media, we all love media, right? So Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, those are very rich sites that contain lots and lots of media. So the markup contains references to all these files, and then they can all be displayed in one page. Again, the website is just a collection of pages. Most of the time, they're all linked together. They all live in the same domain, domains such as facebook.com, or if you want to take that more local, FIU.edu, right? FIU.edu is a very, very big website. It's subdivided by subdomains or by colleges if you want to kind of relate to it, and each college will have a collection of sites that give information about each one of the programs. What is HTML? I think that we just answered that. Was basically just markup, hypertext markup language. Looks something like this. There'll be some tags on the system. So these tags will have less than and then greater than with the attribute with the elements right in the middle. You can add properties to each one of the tags, such as references. So the href tag will just become a link, so we can make links on our page. And some examples of other tags are available. Then CSS. What do you guys know about CSS? So CSS complements the HTML markup, and it tells the browser, hey, I would like to style this a little bit better, right? So cascading sheet styles allow us to define properties on the markup itself. We can tell a particular block of tag or a particular area called div.card that we would like the background to be white, that we want this to have some sort of a shadow element around it, or we want the text to be a particular color, background images, animations, and more. CSS is usually defined or used by the by using selectors. And selectors are basically a way to identify elements inside of the markup. The selectors come in 3 different ways. There are going to be IDs, there's going to be classes, and there's also going to be tag names. You guys know any of these 3? All right, so let's go ahead and start with from the bottom up. An ID. An ID is actually very simple. It's usually defined by the #, that's as stated in the slides. The ID is supposed to be unique. So if you have a web page that's quite long and you want to give a particular element an ID, you will just call this element Bob, and you shouldn't be using Bob anywhere else. Why? Because IDs by default are going to be unique. Classes, on the other hand, are other selectors that you can use to group elements. So if you're having a very big website and every so often you're displaying links or you're displaying navigation or menus, you might want to call those a class of navigation, because every one of those will repeat. So when you define the rules for the navigation, you just define them once, and every member that has that class is going to inherit that. And then there's tag names. Basically, you're just going back to the original markup of the of HTML. You can say, hey, I would like my images, all my images to look like this. I would like all my links, all my paragraphs, everything to look in a particular fashion. So basically, you're grouping them by elements, not by classes anymore. All right. At this point, I think it's just enough theory, enough talking. Let's just get down to business. Let's just go ahead and make some websites. We will be using brackets. Everybody already downloaded brackets? Everyone ready to go? Yes, I see thumbs up over there on the right-hand side. You guys good? Good? Perfect. So let's go ahead and get started. So brackets, pretty cool. It's one of the many, many editors that are available out there. We'll go ahead and use that in just a couple of minutes. We'll start without it. We'll go ahead and start with a web-based solution that I always like to bring up. And that's going to be Thimble. So Thimble, if you Google Thimble, you'll see that one of the websites, one of the main, the first hit is going to be thimble.mozilla.com. This is just an open source project that allows you to write the web directly on a true browser. You can do this on basically any browser that you have on any computer. All you got to do is basically start a project. You can start this from scratch. And it loads up a very nice little web IDE that you can start coding with. Nice thing about Thimble, once it loads, it automatically kind of shows us our very first web page. From there, we see some of the markup that's already been defined. This markup is going to be standard. It kind of becomes a golden template for every project that you're going to be doing. This template basically shows you that there's a document type. Document type simply states what version of HTML are you using. Are you using HTML4? Is HTML4 strict with XML? Are you using HTML5? Nowadays, HTML5 is sort of the standard. So if you just leave the document type HTML, that's all you need to do. Prior to that, the document type used to be extremely long. So if you happen to encounter tutorials or anything online that shows you a really long document type, that's for kind of legacy sites. We don't need those anymore. So this golden template, we need to define the document type. I'm going to tell you right now, it is not 100% required. If you don't put it there, the website will still load. The only thing that will happen is that if you ever try to validate your website, or you're trying to check off that compliance at your company, you will fail. In order for you to have a proper website, you do have to have this tag in there. The tag doesn't show up anywhere on the page, but it is going to be required. Next up, we have the HTML tag. This basically just defines this is where the document starts. Right in there, there's going to be 2 main components. There's going to be the head component and then the body. The head just basically gives instruction to the browser on how to do certain things. Things such as adding the character set. So how is the document going to be encoded? If you want to do any sort of responsive web design, or you're concerned about the display port, you can actually add another meta tag called the viewport. Those quite a bit more advanced. You'll eventually start working on them later. You will also have one of the most important ones, and the one that you will see all the time, is the title. This is the title that appears on the top of your browser or I believe it will show up. So Thimble is the title. This one, the title of the site would have been made with Thimble, but that's something that we don't see on the little preview. That's just the title that will go on the website, on the browser itself. And then any links or any references to any media, right? So we saw that on the definition, media such as files, scripts, images, even fonts we can reference. So those will be links that can be done here. And then we will do some of those examples today. Next up, we have the body tag. This is basically where the content of the site is going to be added. And of course, we can just add clear text. Well, I'm just going to just remove this and then say, so hello from workshop. I can add just clear text. It will just work. I can try to type any paragraph. But unfortunately, you will notice that even if I try to press enter or add breaks, the text doesn't render correctly on the browser. The reason why it doesn't render correctly on the browser is because the browser makes a lot of assumptions. So let's talk about these assumptions. The browser thinks that if there's extra white spaces, if there's breaks in the paragraph, he's not going to make a new paragraph. He's going to ignore that character and say, well, this is still considered the same block. I'm just going to display this kind of as a block text, and that's how I'm going to render it on the browser. If you want to add any text and kind of start styling it, you're going to need to use some HTML elements. Now, these elements were originally created with a purpose. The purpose was to kind of resemble a little bit of what a Word document would look like, right? So in Word, we have our headers. We can create tables of content, right? Do you guys remember that in 1101? You had to write a lot of essays, and they will tell you got to make sure you have an introduction, you got to make sure you have this, you have a closing, right? So we're kind of imitating that in a way. We're making sure that we have our title, that we have our introduction paragraph, that we have our content, that we have images, links, anything that we want. So keep that in the back of your head when you're building sites, and you'll see that some of that still applies today. And these tags were originally kind of created to resemble that. So we have paragraphs. Each paragraph that you have kind of helps you break and give space to the next section. So right there, we will see that we're creating basically 2 paragraphs, the same content. And now, what's next? What will be the next step? Right. So we have an IDE. This is a web IDE. We can definitely start typing text in here. I think that the next thing that we need to do is come up with some sort of a topic, right? What kind of website we're going to make? What do you guys think? What are some ideas? A what? What else? Food. Food will be a great one. Unfortunately, I didn't prepare for that one, but maybe next time. A portfolio, right? That seems to be kind of the typical example. That seems to be, like, I want to talk about myself. This is what I will do. I find that portfolios are great for you to work on, but that's something that you kind of want to work a little bit on your own time because it's kind of personal. It's like how you want to describe yourself. So I don't feel like describing myself here right now. So let's just go ahead and change a different topic. Let's just do something that we can all have access and we can all fill in the blanks. So what I've done today is actually I prepared a quick demo, and this demo talks about a game. This is a game. Why you give me a face? This is a game. It's a game of concentration. Have you guys seen that game? Have you guys played that game? Now let's see if this rings a bell. Here. So this is what we're going to be building today. Sure. Well, I'll remember that. Sorry, the Mac doesn't have that zoom in feature. All right, so this is what I want to start building. I want to take this article from Wikipedia and kind of just rip it apart and build my own site. But nobody seems that excited. It's like, why would you do that? It's already been done. It's already in Wikipedia. Like, end of story. No? You guys agree? It's already been done. So why are we even doing it? All right. All right, tough crowd. I get it. I get it. Let's try this. So here's what we're going to do. Let me go ahead and open up brackets. We're going to bring that one up now. And what we'll do is we're going to use, so here's what brackets look like as soon as you open up the IDE. It has a little welcome telling you how to get started with it. It has basically a big template on how to use HTML. It tells you, hey, welcome to Brackets, a modern open source code editor, blah, blah, blah. Just kind of keeps on going. It gives you a few examples on, to see different tags that we can look up in a little bit. But one of the Brackets' main advantage is that Brackets allows you to have something called a live preview. And this live preview basically allows you to see the end result of your site live, meaning that, so there we go. So let's snap that page right there, put this one here. So if I change anything on the editor, it automatically changes on the website, right? So basically, what you see is what you get, kind of a deal. We want to kind of have that behavior. We're going to be using that throughout the rest of the demo, because as we build it, we want to see the changes that we make. We want to see those live. So what are we building? We're going to be building some instructions for a game, but that's not going to be all. Hopefully, and even if we don't get through the entire demo, I do want to show you that the project that we'll be looking at is the following. So let's open up the project. So I want to show you what the end result is going to look like. So open up folder. Don't save the changes. Say UPE. Perfect. So this is the project, and this is what the end result looks like. Let me go ahead and just throw that one over here. Say live preview, and this is the, oh, I think I still not 100% done. I think I made one small mistake here. Let me just kind of fix that really quick. We're going to comment this line, and I'm going to show you. This is what the website will look like at the end. We have the name. We have different sections of the game. We're going to copy the rules. We're going to talk about how to play the game in solitary mode. We're going to talk about strategy. There's a lot of text in there, and then there's going to be an option to play now. So what do you guys think play now is going to be about? Excuse me? We're actually going to play the game. So believe it or not, this is actually not a very complicated game to build. The game looks like this. At the end of the day, the game looks like a tile. Basically, we're making a big square with 16 cards. And you're going to go and start turning the cards one at a time. And once the cards match, you're going to leave them faced up. The objective of the game, if you've never played this before, is to basically uncover all the cards in the minimum amount of steps. Nobody played this game before? All right. Now you guys are awake. All right. I was going to say, all of you were born with iPhones or just high tech. All right. What? Flappy Bird. Well, yes, Flappy Bird. That would have been a different game, but that one's much harder to code. I didn't have enough time to build a whole demo for that. So again, this is the demo that we have today. Hopefully, we get as close as possible to step number 15. That's where basically the whole game comes up. So we have to start somewhere. So where do we start? Step one. Let's go to step one. So this will be available to you guys. We're going to put it in GitHub, so you guys will be able to download the entire project. That way, if you guys get stuck at any point in time, you guys can definitely pick up and go from there. So step one, we need some content. Again, this is the reason why I don't want to do an About Me section. It'll take too much time to write the whole thing. Instead, we're just going to go and rip off some really interesting game from the internet and just kind of build it ourselves. So let's go ahead and see if we can rebuild this whole project from scratch. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and close brackets. I'm going to close this guy again, and let's start it up from zero. So here, we're going to go and load up brackets. I would like to start a brand new project. How do I do that without new, not new file, new project? All right, let's see. I'm going to open up, create a new folder, call this one demo. Have the folder, throw it in here in brackets, and here we have a brand new project. So we have a brand new project. There's nothing in here. we'll go ahead and start from scratch. Now, what I had done before is I started breaking it by different steps, right? So I had step 1, 2, 3. We're probably not going to match the steps in the same identical way, but we're also going to go ahead and break those by folders. So here's what we'll do. So we have a brand new project. We'll call this demo. You can call it anything you like. And then inside of the project, we're going to go ahead and say file, new, and that's a new file, but that's not a new folder. So I'm going to go and say right-click where it says demo, new folder, and then call this, just put number 1. Right in there, open up the folder, new file, index.html. So there we go. Better? Out. OK. Then next up, we're going to go and enable the live preview. So as we make changes, we'll be able to see where we are. So if you guys are following along, are you guys close to here? Have you guys opened up brackets, trying to start a project? Have you guys tested that live feature? Does it show up on your system? Great. So let's go ahead and start getting the content from the site. So let's grab this guy, put it on Chrome. Seems like we'll be doing most of the work in Chrome. Grab that. So here we go. Let's go ahead and just start copying and pasting some of the content. So we'll grab the intro right there. We'll grab some information from the rules. So I'm just going to copy this whole section, throw that in there. Grab the title, call that rules. Grab the title for solitaire. I'm going to not copy the paragraph that has the mathematical equation. The only reason is if I copy that, it kind of brings some hidden characters, and I don't want to get into that just yet. So we'll skip that one. We'll go next into strategy. Copy and paste the whole thing. And I believe that's as far as we go. We're not going to go into variations. We don't need to go that far. I think this is plenty for us to work with. So here we go. We have copied a file. Right? We have copied the content of a file directly from Wikipedia, dropped it into brackets, and we're viewing it through the live preview. And what do we get? This is a nice website, right? You guys agree? You don't seem too excited just yet. No? But didn't we define that at the very beginning? We said it could be any file that can be viewed in a browser. So, ta-da! We made our first website. No? Oh, wow. It's still a tough crowd. Tough crowd. But don't be fooled, because if you ever have one of these recruiters ever kind of challenge you into what a website is, you can always tell them, no, no, no. It works from the bottom up. It can be any file, as simple as just as regular text. Now, is it your fault that the text doesn't render correctly? What do you guys think? Is it your fault? Yes. No? Maybe? Show of hands, how many of you say this? Yes. Is it your fault that the text doesn't look right? No? Yes? Maybe? OK. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Let's try this. So this is how the browser is viewing it. But what if we show up and we go into the browser and we say show source code? Well, it seems like everything changed, right? Now we're looking at the source code of this website. It looks more or less what we copy into our editor. So I asked the question, is this right? I mean, whose fault is it? Is it the browser's fault or is it our fault? It seems like it's a compromise, right? It's a compromise of, whose fault is it? The browser does not display it correctly, or is it the data that we didn't send it right? So again, if we go by definition, straight up definition, we're doing the right thing. We're sending a file over the internet, and the browser is displaying it. The only thing is that this file is not styled. Basically, we haven't dressed it up correctly, and it's just showing up like that. But if we were looking at this in a terminal or the way people were doing the internet back in the day, this will be perfectly acceptable. Here's how we're gonna prove that. The way we're gonna prove that is we're gonna open up a terminal window, right? So terminal, for most of you, if you use Linux or you have a Mac, you have a terminal on your system. Now the terminal, I'm sorry to bring my Unix background on to play, but this is the only way I can demo this. But bring up a terminal, and I type a command named curl. I am going to load the website in a text fashion. So I'm going to say curl this URL. And the URL, of course, is the local version of the page. And I'm saying, OK, using just plain text, go to this site and load up this content. And what do we get? We get the exact same content that we loaded up into brackets, right? We get it exactly word for word, space by space, typo and typo again, right? So if you messed up, you'll see them here. So all of this is available. So I asked the question again, whose fault is it? Seems like the browser is more demanding than a terminal or a text, a plain text way of interacting with the web, right? Computers don't carry their pictures. Do you guys agree? If a computer is talking to another computer, does he really care that there are images in there? No, he's just going to look at the raw text. So in a way, again, back to the core definition. This right there, it's a web page. We're done. Drop the mic. Let's go home, right? Let's just go have some food and get to know each other. But that's not what you guys came here to see. You guys definitely want to see this dressed up and working the right way. So let's go ahead and fix that. Tough crowd, tough crowd. Let's go. Let's do this. All right, so enough with the Unix demo. Back to this guy. We have our content. So what do we do next? We have step one, bare bones. This is the content that we're going to be using today. Let's go ahead and move on to step two. Let's decorate this website. So back to brackets. I'm going to go and right-click, say new folder. We're going to step number two. Step number two, let's go ahead and add a file. Same thing, index.html, and a new file. But instead, this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring in the template that we were looking at just a minute ago in Thimble. So I'm going to go to Thimble, looking in there. And I'm going to say, well, you know what? I'm going to start with this bit of code. So I'm going to drop that on my text editor. And then now, using brackets, we have recreated the exact same example that we had in Thimble, right? So we have our title. So notice the title here shows up a little bigger, shows up a little more clear. Then we have our header. We have our first paragraph. What do you guys think? Right? So we have basically now the skeleton of the page. But here's the thing. I just want to point out one more time, what was that demo that we were doing with curl? If we try to bring up the same page now, this page will be with the number 2 for this demo. If you're looking at this as plain text, is this pretty? Can you make sense of this? Right? So it seems like the browser is doing the work for us, is converting the markup, and is turning the markup into something that we understand, turning it into bold letters, big letters, colors, different backgrounds. But if we're looking at this raw, now we just see a big blurb of text. But is that always the case? Let's try that going to google.com. So if I go through the CLI and if I go to google.com, does this look like google.com to you guys? No, right? But look carefully at the URL. What does it say? What does it say? We're looking at google.com. So no, the answer is no. It doesn't look anything like google.com. The reason why is because there's a lot of instructions embedded in here. One of those instructions tells you, hey, when you go to google.com, make sure that you always go and get redirected to www.google.com. And then eventually, when you go there, that's when you actually get to see all the source code. Now, if you're looking at a text-based, if you're using a text-based web browser, such as curl, that's what you're going to get. You're just going to get a lot of text, and most of the time, it's compressed, so it's lighter in weight, and it can transfer faster to you, and that's ultimately what you get. Can you guys make sense of that? No, right? For this, what we like to do, of course, is we would like to just open up google.com on our browser, and then we get the nice, pretty interface, right? This is what we're used to, correct? So let's try to see if we can, using that template, if we can actually make something pretty and that makes sense and it looks nice on the screen. All right, enough of terminals. Let's go ahead and get here. All right, so we have the code that we're getting from Wikipedia. We're going to split the view so we can work in two files at the same time. And what we're going to do is we're just basically going to copy and paste this document that we had in step 1. We're going to copy that, and we're going to go and bring it into step 2. And what we're going to do is we're just basically going to go and just drop file right in the middle. If we preview what the website looks like, what we should see is we should see a nice title. We should see the first paragraph, and then next up, we just get to see a big blurb of text. Our job will be to fix this text and make it look nice. So let's go ahead and get started with that. All right, so in the first one, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start getting rid of a few things. So we'll grab this title, and instead of saying, welcome to Thimble, let's just go ahead and replace this and say, this is a website about concentration. Next up, we're going to use this paragraph, this open paragraph tag, and we're going to start building our first paragraph. So we're going to just say, we're going to grab the first paragraph and close the tag right about here. Now, if we look at the live preview, we start seeing that the website's starting to take form, right? So we have a title, and we have our very first paragraph. I guess at this point, one of the things that's happening is that we're probably thinking, well, it seems like we're going too fast. What are we doing? Well, some of the times, and I think this is mostly applies to guys, right? We're stubborn. We like to not read the directions. We just like to go in, all in, right? Start fixing your car, opening your computers, figure out what's going on. And then eventually at some point we stop and we're like, we should have read those instructions. So here's basically the gist of the demo is we're getting really hands-on into this experience. We grab some content. That was a great idea. We dropped in the content on the page, but now we don't know what we're going to do next. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to just replicate the demo, the little snippet of code that was available to us from Thimble, and then say, well, this is my guideline. They had some headers. They had some paragraphs. Let's just use those tags that we see there to build an entire site. So without any prior knowledge of any of the other elements that are on the web, we're going to build a site just with headers and paragraphs. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go and grab the paragraphs here. We're going to say, well, this is one paragraph. We're going to start grabbing those tags and then just start applying them at the beginning of each paragraph. So I'm going to say, OK, here, here. Next one up right there. After the solitaire, strategy. Now, you're probably wondering, well, the tags are all opening tags, meaning that this is what defines where the paragraph starts. And each one of those elements have to have a closing tag, meaning that anything that's in between is going to be part of that one paragraph. Now, because this site happened to be a little bit long or longer than I expected, I'm not opening each tag by hand. I'm actually just kind of just going in there and say copy paste, ensuring that at the end and at the beginning of each paragraph, there is a closing and opening paragraph tag. So here it is, open and close, open, close, open, close, and open, close. Now, if we look at the live demo, how is the website looking so far, guys? What do we have? I mean, it's starting to look better, right? It starts to look more like a Word document, right? If somebody had to write a report about the game of concentration, will it look something like this? Right? It does. Right? It has some like subheaders, like you get to see like, this is the title, this is the first paragraph, the intro, then this is some sort of header. So it seems like we're able to break it apart from just one big block of text and just separate it and keep it organized. Amazing. So let's go ahead and move, keep going. What we're going to do next is in the same example number 2, we're also going to add different headers. So notice on the thimble skeleton, there was a heading 1. It was an H1. Denoting that this was the biggest, this is the primary heading for the document. If you had a table of contents, this will be the title of the entire document. What we're going to do next is there were some subheadings. So we're going to just go ahead and just write H2. And then in there, we're just going to drop in the text right there for rules. Notice right then and there that on the live preview, the website is actually changing. We're going to do the exact same thing for Solitaire. So I'm just going to go cut that, type H3, and then Solitaire. So now we have fixed that title. H3, sorry, I meant to do H2 for them. And again, the website, we have the website currently on brackets, and then on the right-hand side, we have the live preview. How is the site looking? What do you guys think? Is it looking better? Yeah, right? It's looking much better. All right, good, good. So let's go ahead and do one thing in here. I don't know if you guys can see this, but how does the source code look like? Let's get rid of the split view. So this is my source code. How does my source code look like? Does it look clean? Do you guys understand this? Yeah. Well, there's one good thing about these new editors, and that's that they have a lot of plugins. Some of the plugins help you do live preview. Some plugins help you write faster HTML. Some plugins, they just help you make your code look prettier. One of those plugins is called Beautify. Beautify is a plugin that you can download on Brackets. You can also download on Atom and Visual Studio for the Mac and Windows. If you press Beautify, right-click, press. Now, how does my source code look like? Looks better, right? It doesn't matter if I'm messy. You can always make sure that the auto-align and Beautify makes sure that all the tags are right, that the text is right in the middle, that everything looks right and nice and tidy looking. So it seems like we have a much better website so far. What do you guys think? Good? So what's next? What do you guys? Where should we take this? What will be the next step? We have our site. This thing broke. It's previewing the wrong file. Hello. Why are you showing us the wrong file here? Let's close that up. Let's launch live preview again, because that's not what our current website looks like. So there it is. So there's the site. Good? All right, let's see. What else do I have here with me? So the next thing that I would like to do is I don't want to go too far from what we've done so far. I mean, this is the kind of the golden template where everybody starts. I'm going to go here and now talk to you a little bit about CSS, right? So this changes that we've made, we've only defined a few tags. And with these tags, the browser is loading up a site. And this site, by default, has different font sizes. It has different font styles. Like some of them are bold. Some of them, we can make them italic. But have I done anything to customize the look and feel? No, I just basically told the markup, hey, I would like to define this as a header. How does the browser interpret the header? That's up to the browser's development team, right? The developers kind of get together and they're like, well, we as Mozilla company or the Chrome developer team or Safari, they're like, hey, we think that the H1 should look like this. A particular size, a particular font, and everything in between. But that doesn't give you any flexibility. If you want to define what your header 1 looks like, you have to apply some CSS to it. That's what we're going to go ahead and do right now. We're going to go ahead and apply some CSS to the few elements that we have on screen right now. To do that, we're going to go back to the head object on our page. And to do this, what I will, to start this part of the demo, I would like to just go ahead and just go into my project and copy the entire folder. Why? Just so that I have step number 3, and I don't break and I don't miss anything from my previous steps. So I'm going to say, OK, perfect. I'm going to step number 3. And this broke. Why did you? Let's see, go to the project, and down here I'm just gonna duplicate the folder. This makes things faster and easier for everybody, not 23, just 3. All right, so here on step 3, we have the same index page. And what I would like to do is I would like to add some CSS to the file. So I'm just gonna open up a tag, and this tag is gonna be very special. It's called style. So I'm gonna open up the style tag, and then brackets is smart enough to figure out that it needs to be closed. So now that we have a style tag, we're going to go ahead and add a few changes. What are these changes? First up, the very first thing I would like to do is the following. I would like to make sure that this page is not 100% width. I'm just going to go ahead and just make this a little bit smaller. The reason why I want to make this smaller is just so that I have a lot of room to scroll, because we're going to be making a small navigation in a couple of steps, and I want to make sure that we can jump to the different sections on the navigation. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and just address one of the elements in the code, and we're going to say, well, I would like my body element to have a width of 500. So here it is. We've made this change, and our website currently has a width of 500. Can you guys even tell the difference from the live preview? No? Yes? I don't see a lot of interaction here. Nope. All right. So here's what we have. The website should be of a width 500 pixels. Now, if I expand the browser, can you tell if my website has a width of 500? Now it becomes more obvious, right? If I take the website full screen, I can definitely see that the body is now constrained to be 500 pixels. Now that's nice. We're going to leave that there for a little bit, and what we'll do is we'll talk about styles and selectors again. So like I mentioned in the slides, there's 3 ways of using CSS. You can address things by the element type. You can address things by IDs, and you can address things by class. So if anybody knows the answer for this, just raise your hand. How are we addressing this first CSS rule? Are we using styles, classes, or elements? I mean, it's a 33% chance to get it right. We're doing it by elements. That is correct. I wish I had something to give you, but I don't. So I'll just give you a congratulations. I mean, I know that in the previous one, you guys were giving stuff away. So yeah, we're using elements, and we're using the base element, which is the body, and we're telling this element we have different attributes. What kind of attributes are available? Well, there's plenty of websites that will tell you all the stuff that you can change. You can change from the color of the font, the width, the height. If you want to have like background, shadows, if you just want to have borders, if you want to be very specific and you only want to define the top border in an element, you can do that. And how do you learn this? Well, the way you learn this, the best way to do this is just trial and error, my friends. Best way is go out there, find a nice tutorial website, and then start figuring out and start working in a project yourself, and then you will learn these things by doing them. There are lots and lots of attributes that are out there. If you don't believe me, I'm just going to go ahead and show you what those attributes look like. Let's go ahead and just, on the website, we're going to expand this a little bit. We're going to right-click on Chrome, and then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to say inspect. If you have Google Chrome, you have the ability to, on your browser, to inspect any website. This basically gives you a way to debug the site. It gives you an ability to kind of go in depth and see what kind of code is in here and how they're setting it up. So let's go ahead and look at the debugger here for a second, or the inspector. The way the inspector works is very simple. It's going to show you the source code on the left-hand side, and then sometimes the attributes on the right-hand side or underneath, depending if you have Chrome, Firefox, IE, or Safari. So what are these elements and what are these attributes that you can change? The attributes that you can change are the following. Here, let's go ahead and select body. Notice on the right-hand side that it says styles, and currently these styles look like as follow. It says width 500. Does that look familiar? That's the attribute that we define ourselves. That's what we told the browser. Hey, I would like the body to have 500 pixels. What about the ones at the bottom? What about where it says display block and margin 8 pixels? Did we add that there? No? Did we? Do you guys remember when I said that the developers are the ones that kind of make these arbitrary decisions? They're the ones that tell the browser, hey, we got a brand new document. It doesn't have any styles. So we're going to make sure that every time we load a website, by default, the body is going to be display type block and margin 8 pixels. Right? Sometimes this is out of your control. This just happens because of the developers chose this. This is not a requirement. The web is a standard, meaning that anybody can implement the standards in whichever way they interpret them. So each browser does it slightly different. That's why being a web developer sometimes makes you want to pull your hair, because the way it renders on one browser definitely doesn't translate to every other browser, especially IE. Internet Explorer is just kind of one of the ones that just you got to tweak a lot of things. Now, but here I am telling you, hey, there's a lot of attributes, but yet we only see, how many? We only see 3. Right there on the screen, we see width, we see display, and we see margin. Where are the rest of the attributes, and how can we learn about them? Unfortunately, I don't use Chrome on a regular basis, so I'm going to go and bring back Safari, because Safari does have something on Chrome, and it's the following. I can go to any website, so I'm just going to go and go to apple.com, right-click anywhere, go and say Inspect Element. If you're on Safari, the developer preview is not available right away. You actually have to enable it. But once you enable the inspector, notice again, all the attributes are on the right-hand side. One of the things that Safari has, it has this option called Properties Computed. It basically tells me, hey, everything that this object has, all these attributes, in conjunction of what the user defines and then what the browser kind of fills in the blanks. Like if you didn't define a margin and the browser gives me a default margin, he's going to put it in there. Now, this element in this example has a lot of attributes, so things that we haven't seen like color, cursor, display, direction, font width, style, size. But if I click here where it says show all of these ones that are not in bold, these are all the options that you can choose. So there is no workshop on earth that will actually teach you how to become a good web developer, because there's no way anyone will go over all of these elements in one shot. Instead, what I can tell you is how to get to them. So if you ever wonder, hey, what is new in Safari? What are some of the new attributes and what are some of the new things that I can use on my website? Just open up an inspector, and if you're running the latest version of Chrome or Safari, you will see any of the new attributes that you can use, and all of them are listed. Some of them are not currently enabled, but recently enough, I learned that there's something called flex grids. Basically allows you to just basically create rows, dynamic rows on the web, and this is still relatively new. I had no idea about it, and I honestly stumbled upon it because I was looking for a property, and I'm like, huh, what is that? Flex grids. And next thing I did, I spent the next 5 hours on the internet trying to learn how to use them. Ask me if I learned anything. No, it was still a very challenging and confusing topic. I just spent like 5 hours in YouTube, just going from video to video, just jumping around. Perfect. So again, there's all these attributes that we can learn. We unfortunately cannot go over all of them, so we'll just pick and choose the ones that kind of make more sense for us. Back to the demo. So we have defined the width 500, and that's it. So this is what our website looks like. We have our site only 500, and it looks kind of plain. Still looks kind of dull. So what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of fix this up a little bit more. And the way we're going to do that is by adding a few more styles. So in here, I'm going to go and say width 500, and I'm going to go and just kind of bring this body into the middle of the page. Why the middle of the page? Simply because we want to follow suit. For the most part, the web, you start seeing your favorite websites. You start seeing how Google's doing it, how Facebook's doing it, how Apple's doing it. And here's the catch, is that these big companies are basically training all the users on how to use the web. They're telling the user, hey, menus, for the most part, look like this. Options to log out look like this. So when you're building a website, one thing to keep in mind is that you don't want to reteach the users how to use your website. You should leverage conventions that are out there or kind of standards, and I put that in quotations simply because they're not on black and white anywhere. It's just kind of like, this is how everybody else is doing it. So sometimes you do want to follow suit and be like, hey, I want to organize my website in a way that resembles something familiar to everybody else out there. So I'm going to go ahead and just make this website go right in the middle. To do that, I'm going to use the margin attribute. So I'm going to say margin, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 0 pixels and auto. Now, do notice the website hasn't changed. That is simply because we are not in live preview anymore. So I'm going to enable that again. So I'm going to say live preview right there. Close the previous page, and then open up the browser, and then just kind of make this full screen. So right now, it seems like our page looks like if we were reading an article, right? Simply, we're just reading any article on the web, without all those advertising banners, right? It's very clean. The web doesn't look like this anymore. Just a bunch of advertisement everywhere. Perfect. So let's go ahead and keep going. So what we'll do is let's just go ahead and continue to try a few more things. Let's go ahead and keep adding some more CSS, but using different elements. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and then grab this paragraph, and let's go ahead and give this paragraph a class. I'm going to just say, in the element itself, I'm going to go ahead and add class, enter. It automatically puts the equal sign and the quotations. Brackets are smart enough to help me autofill, and this is why we love editors. Then next up, I'm just going to give this a class name. So I'm just going to call this 1, so P1. And then I'm going to go back to my styles, and then I'm just, for fun, we'll just give this guy a background color. So I'm just going to say P1, open, close curly braces, background. Do notice that bracket's also smart enough that as soon as you start typing, he wants to kind of help you fill in the blanks. So he's like, what do you mean? What are you trying to type? I'll help you. So let's go back here. So we'll say background, and then we'll say orange. So type that in, and we have our very first rule that changes the background color. Now again, we're changing the style of this element by using a class, right? Now, do notice that it's very particular the way we're doing this. We're saying P1, right? Now that will be the element paragraph right next to the class called 1. So here's a question for everybody. What will happen if I grab the same class definition and add it to the header? Will the header turn orange? No? Anybody says yes? All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to drop that in there. We're going to put H1 is also of class 1, but the header didn't change color. The reason why is because the way we created this CSS rule, it said, or it reads, for any paragraph who's of class 1, apply the following style. Correct? What happens if I remove the paragraph? If I just leave .1? As soon as I take out the P, any element in the document object model, also known as the DOM, which is also referred in a lot of websites because that's how you will interact with the page. Once you start using JavaScript, you will treat it as an object, and there's a model on how you iterate through it. So in the DOM, there's only 2 elements that have that class. One is a header, the other one is a paragraph. Now, if we wanted to be narrowed down that population and say, hey, I would only like my paragraphs of type 1, of class 1 to have a particular color, then I will write my style to be like that. Correct? Now, here's another one. What if I grab this piece of code and I say, let me just comment this line here before it makes any changes. What's going to happen if I uncomment this line of code? We have 2 definitions. We have P1 to be background orange. We have P1 to be background green. What color is the paragraph going to be after I uncomment this line? Is it going to be red or orange? Red? How many say orange? So red? How many say orange? How many say we don't know? That's why we're here. All right, let's do this. Let's try this out. We uncommented, and now the paragraph becomes red. Now, does anybody know why this behavior happens? It's the last instruction that takes place. Somebody else? No? Yes, you were going to say? Mm-hmm. It's red from the bottom to the top.
The specificity is a hierarchy and a selection.
There's a hierarchy in it. That is correct. Do you guys know, of course, how many of you are IT in here? Computer science? Engineering? Engineering. Oh, I'm surprised. Good. I'm also engineering as well. That was my undergrad, computer engineering. This kind of behavior resembles something very important for most of the IT folks and engineering as well, computer science. This resembles a firewall. Firewalls from the security point of view are also red top to bottom, meaning that the last instruction will, actually, no, I take it back. The firewalls are the opposite. The firewalls are, yeah, they're red top to bottom, but the first line is the one that applies. In here, they are basically, you can overwrite any element if you step on it. There are ways of kind of overimposing that. You can, there's a particular tag called important, where you can actually say you want to force any of these styles to supersede anything else, and it works. But there's also a huge hierarchy in CSS, and we can go hours and hours and talk about it, but it's just basically kind of just giving you a quick demo on how this operates. Now, if I wanted to take this P out of the way, this is the answer. Now, why we get this weird behavior? The header is red, which matches exactly what our definition is. Class 1 is red, and then the paragraph happens to be orange. Any reasons why this behavior is the way it is? Why we're experiencing this? So we're specifying which one belongs to, but they're both of class 1, right? And class 1 by itself at the bottom, it says you should be red. How come the paragraph is not red? Okay, you're gonna. Okay, so paragraph 1, you're saying that one's more specific. So in reality, it reads both definitions, and then it takes the one with the biggest weight, and it goes top to bottom again. The one with the biggest weight is the one with the paragraph. If you define an element attached to a class, that's going to have a heavier weight than just the class alone, because you're being more explicit. You're saying for any paragraph with any class in this combination, you're going to apply the following rule. That's basically what's happening right here, and then that's why they change. So when you're playing with CSS, it does take a while for you guys to get the desired outcome on the screen, because sometimes you start writing and you're like, this is not working. Why isn't this working? Sometimes all you need to do is just change things around. All right, perfect. So we'll let's see what else can we do here. I have so. Oh yeah, let's just go ahead and take the break now, and then we'll come back and we'll keep working on this.
All right, awesome, guys. Quick thing. We're gonna be starting part 2 in a little bit.